Hey guys, so today I want to talk about why having a chronic disease is not your fault, despite what it might feel like, as well as some problems that I've seen in the yoga and wellness community that perpetuate this feeling of a chronic illness being your fault. So I want to start off by saying that I'm always open to changing my mind, and if anything that I say in this video sounds really ignorant or like I'm missing a big piece of the puzzle, please just let me know, because it's not my intent to hurt any feelings or ruffle any feathers here. These are just my current feelings about this widespread issue, and I'm fully aware that it's a lot worse for other people, and I'm fully aware that's a lot better for other people. So this is purely my experience. So if you get any ideas from watching this, just drop a comment below and I'd love to talk it out. Disclaimer. So a lot of people in the yoga community seem to think that your mind is 100% responsible for how your body physically performs and how you feel. And this just is not true. Genetics are real. Physical illnesses are real. Viruses, germs, real things. And you can't meditate hard enough to make those things not exist. If you're diagnosed with a chronic disease, no matter what you might hear from other people, this is not in your head. This is a real physical illness. Just understand that some people are going to downplay this, and you're going to hear the have you tried and you should just do whatever. And I've gotten feelings from a lot of people that they think I just want to feel this way, or I just don't want to be healthy bad enough. Like, nobody wants to feel this way. Why would anybody want to be chronically ill? Having an invisible illness can be nice at times because you can just blend in, you can appear to be totally normal, and at times you can forget that you even have this illness. But it's also incredibly frustrating at times when people don't believe you or they don't think you're trying hard enough to not be sick, just you name it. And I want to clarify something I said in a past video, that's just because our bodies are our guides and our compass, that doesn't mean that if we're sick, that we're doing something wrong and that it's our fault. Everything just is what it is. We get what we get, and you just got to react to what you get. And I've gotten this vibe from a lot of people that if you just meditate hard enough, or if you meditate the right way, you can cure yourself, you can heal yourself completely. And I believed this, and I was preaching this for a few years because I wasn't sick for 2 years when I first started doing yoga. And then once I got sick right after coming back from my yoga teacher training, I was so frustrated with myself and blamed myself for everything. I was like, I wasn't committed enough, or I didn't do it the right way. And it drove me insane. It still does sometimes, because again, this is something I have to unlearn now. I had fully convinced myself that it was my fault that I got a chronic illness because my stomach is my solar plexus, and my confidence and self-worth were so low. And that explains why I have such severe stomach problems, because I have no self-worth. So if I work on my self-worth, then I can cure myself. It doesn't work that way. As awesome as that would be, if we could just meditate on that chakra and open it enough, then everything would disappear and we would be perfectly healthy. I wish it worked that way. You don't have the power to protect your body from everything bad if you meditate hard enough or the right way. A lot of people meditate or do yoga daily, and they also have great physical health. And they seem to assume that this means that those are inherently connected. They're confusing correlation and causation. You can be physically sick and still meditate every day. And on the flip side, you can have perfect physical health and never meditate a day in your life. These two things don't have to go together. And this is a narrative that I see being pushed way too much. It goes along with the law of attraction stuff, which in business and certain things, like, hell yeah, law of attraction, vision boards, like, do it, because that's what kind of gets your mind to be on that page of we're going toward this one goal. But when it comes to health things, law of attraction is the devil. Because I've been stuck in this loop of worrying that I'm going to get sick, and then noticing I'm worrying about getting sick, and then blaming myself for when I get sick, thinking that it's because I was worrying about it and that's why I'm sick. So it's just this vicious cycle that repeats itself over and over again. So no law of attraction, none of that if you have a chronic illness and you're working with your health, because it will drive you crazy. Not all illnesses are a product of unresolved things in your psyche, of inner child work that you need to do. And I've been told this by a fair amount of people that my disease is probably rooted in a past life or problems with my inner child. It's an interesting idea, and I do like exploring those realms of healing. But to suggest that it's something like, oh, you haven't done enough inner child work or you haven't done enough past life regressions and that's why you're still sick. Like, shut up. It drives me crazy because there's a part of me that already thinks that. So I don't need you telling me that. So even if, like, let's just say, even if all illnesses are a product of unresolved things in your psyche that you just haven't worked on enough, even if that is the ultimate truth, that is the most unhelpful thing to tell someone with a chronic illness. That is a bubble thought. You should keep that to yourself. Because for me, this just immediately makes me feel guilty. I already blame myself for my disease. And when it comes from an outside source, I just blame myself 10 times harder. And then I get mad at you for making me blame myself, even though it's all just me having this deep guilt thinking that there's something I could have done to stop this. When literally my uncle had the exact same thing, like this is genetics and it's okay. I do think that some of my thoughts accelerated the extent of my disease, which I'll talk about more in another video. So the opposite of shame is self-compassion. And that is what we need to cope effectively with whatever we've been given, whether it's an illness or any other problem. So if you know a chronically ill person, instead of suggesting to them that they need to meditate more or they need to do yoga more and they'll feel better, there are kinder ways to get that message across. All you need to say is, I've heard meditation and yoga can really help with just how you see your life circumstances, so it might help you cope with what you're dealing with. That's all you need to say. You don't need to make any claims that this is going to heal you or this is going to cure your illness, because then when it doesn't, that person just thinks they're doing it wrong or they're not doing it the right way or hard enough or whatever. That is not what yoga is about. Yoga is unity. Yoga is about accepting everything, accepting every part of you and every part of everyone else. So we have to accept that we have flaws and that we have these bad things inside of us. We can't meditate them away, nor should we. The yoga community at large feels very toxic right now. I often see this holier than thou attitude in a lot of studios, at least in New York. But I know that this is a problem across the country and probably in other countries. But this attitude that, oh, you go to this yoga studio every single day and then a new person shows up, I'm better than them because I come here every day and I've never seen you before. That is like a real life attitude I've seen countless times. And it just turns away everyone who could benefit from yoga the most. When I started yoga, I tried going to multiple studios around the city and always felt like it was just this elitist club that I wasn't a part of and I wasn't welcome to join. And that's coming from me. I am a young, tall, thin, white woman. I am the cookie cutter image of who's taking over the yoga world right now. And I felt excluded from most studios. So I know that it's a million times worse for people of color, for older people, for people who aren't super thin. I know those people feel even more excluded than I've felt. And that just pains me so much because then people get this idea that yoga is a bad thing or that yoga is a thing they don't want to do because they don't want to be like those people who are excluding you. And it turns people off of this beautiful practice that might be exactly what they need to heal. And it's not fair that groups of people who are excluding others taint the entire practice of yoga in the minds for many people. Or there's one person they know who does yoga and she's a bitch and isn't that nice. So then yoga becomes a bad practice in their head. Anyone who doesn't fit the mold of the perfect Lululemon wearing yogi. And yes, air quotes with yogi. I'm going to talk about yogi. And this is something that is coming to my attention more recently. I don't think that people out there have any bad intentions when they're calling themselves a yogi or calling their friends yogi. But I have to say, if you are a white person, being a yogi is not part of our culture. And we have to respect that. It's unfair that a teenager in the US can go to a 2-week yoga teacher training, and then call herself the same thing as a sage in India who has dedicated their entire lifetime to the practice of yogic principles. The term yogi is a sacred term, and when everyone's referring to themselves as yogi, this completely strips the meaning of this term that should be reserved for those who dedicate their entire lifetimes to this practice on all realms, not just showing up at a yoga class once a week. I stayed away from doing yoga openly for a long time because I didn't want to be a part of the people I was seeing. I didn't want to be just another uncultured white girl doing yoga. And although on the surface that is a somewhat honest assessment of me, yoga still saved my life. Yoga is a practice that doesn't discriminate and has healing benefits for every single person who practices. So why, as a community, do we discriminate until we're called out for it? And then it feels like an onslaught of people and companies trying to prove that they're not part of the problem. But I feel like if you think you have to prove that you're not part of the problem, then you're probably a little bit part of the problem, or else you wouldn't have to prove anything. And I feel this way about myself. Like, I'm the one making this video. This is trying to prove something to myself. I just don't know what to do about it. Like, I am what I am. I can't change the fact that I'm a young, thin, white girl and I like yoga. I don't want to be one of those girls that's ruining yoga. I want to respect and honor the practice the best that I can. I know I'm not perfect. I know that I'm a part of the problem to some extent, but this is why I'm just trying to be as honest as possible about what I see going on and what I'm feeling, because I think that's the only way to even start to find a solution to this. The appropriation of yoga turns away those who don't fit the mold, as well as those who do fit the mold and see the problem and just don't want to be a part of that problem. It's just such a mess. And I do know that there's people out there that are doing great things, and there's definitely a lot of people having this conversation, and I do feel like there will be progress in this situation. I'm hoping that it's getting better just because of the amount of people who are talking about it, because if we weren't talking about it, then there would be no hope, because we wouldn't even acknowledge that there was a problem to fix. I just think that yoga teachers and teacher training should be required to educate on this widespread appropriation of yoga. And I also think it should be a little bit harder to become a yoga teacher, so not like everyone can call themselves a yoga teacher. I still feel like I'm not a real yoga teacher. Like, I want to learn from someone who's been doing this for longer than I've been alive. But that's all I really feel qualified to say about cultural appropriation of yoga right now, because there's way better and more knowledgeable people talking about this. So I'll put links in the description to some podcasts I've been listening to of these great women. There's this podcast, Let's Talk Yoga by Arundhati Mangalkar, and another one called Yoga is Dead by Teja Patel and Jaisal Parikh. So I'll put links to those below. So I started my yoga practice 100% online on YouTube. And this is a really great way to start a spiritual practice with yourself, but not the best for your physical practice, just because you don't know if you have the correct form without someone watching you. And you don't want to learn bad habits, because then it takes a while to undo those. So if you really want to start off a yoga practice and you're brand new to it, I highly recommend you get a private yoga instructor. So that way you don't feel out of place in a studio setting, and you know that the teacher is watching you and making sure that you aren't doing anything that's going to create injuries in the future. So overall, practicing the yogic principles of being self-compassionate and self-critical when observing your thoughts and circumstances can maybe help you find a place of peace. There's no magic way of thinking that can cure all of your problems. What works for someone else isn't necessarily going to work for you, and there are no shortcuts. It's just work. But don't let the daunting pile of this work on yourself stop you from starting it. Be patient and kind to yourself so that you can continue or start the process of learning to truly know yourself, and continually doing this, because we change all the time. So what we learn about ourselves today might be different tomorrow, or there might be a new layer to tomorrow. So we can't do the work of getting to know ourselves and what our triggers are and all of this, and then just stop doing the work, because that's going to change over time. This is a lifelong thing. So we have to aim for longevity. So if you want to start a yoga practice, start with something super simple for 5 minutes a day. Don't force yourself to do a 2-hour class every single day, because it's not sustainable and you're just going to burn out. It's better to do a little bit every day than to do a lot once a week. At the end of the day, be sweet, be patient, be loving, and be kind to yourself and those around you. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments. Again, I'm sorry if that ruffled any feathers. I really just wanted to get that out. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell.